It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is the Five.
I don't know.
We hope you had a wonderful holiday. It's 2017. Yeah, there was a little bit of a flop, but it was kind of funny.
That's the Obamacare of New Year's Eve party favors.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, producers. All right, anyway, a new year, and America will soon have a new president for the first time in 8 years. Big changes are in store for the country. Good changes. President-elect Donald Trump has a massive agenda to tackle, and he's promised to deliver. We want to take a look at some of his biggest campaign pledges, starting with a complete overhaul of Obamacare.
We have to repeal it and replace it with something absolutely much less expensive and something that works, where your plan can actually be tailored. We have to get rid of the lines around the state, artificial lines, where we stop insurance companies from coming in and competing.
All right, Kate,
Yep.
let me get rid of this.
Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, this is like daily excitement for 13-year-old girls. I love all the colors and the sparkles.
So Obamacare,
Yep.
the weeks before the election, Obamacare premiums soared. A lot of people said that was a lot of reason why President-elect Trump is now going to be President Trump.
Yes, in fact, yes, very soon. Okay, so here's the deal. Obamacare is going to fail and die and fall on its own sword. That's the problem. Or on its own mandate, which is the centerpiece, the tent pole of Obamacare, keeping it going with the funding, because there's not enough money to be able to keep it going. So unless the president-elect goes ahead and repeals and revises, it's going to die a slow death, which is really problematic for all the people that are signed up for it. So this is something that has to be done in very quick order to make sure that people are covered with quality choices and quality care for their families.
How quickly can he start on dismantling or replacing Obamacare?
I was just making a couple of notes because I was thinking to myself, he could start right away. And in fact, there's a push by some people who say, repeal it on day one. So walk from the Capitol as he's sworn in, as he passes by, hand the baton to Paul Ryan and say, okay, now go do your work on Obamacare and get that done on the first day. I think there's resistance from some Republicans to say, now, this is a little bit more complicated than that, especially when, as Greg has pointed out, when you take something away from people, it is harder than giving something new to them. And I think the big question will be, what do the Democrats do? So they have a choice to make. They could sit on their hands and say, we're not going to help you. You want to dismantle it? Fine. And I don't think that will be possible for them to do for very long, because their constituents are going to demand something better. They're not going to be in a better situation in terms of fixing Obamacare. And there are so many red state Democrats who are up for election in 2018 that I think that eventually, after some hemming and hawing, they will come to the table and try to work on improving their version of Obamacare. Even if they don't like it to the repeal and replace, I do think the Democrats eventually come to the table, but it will be ugly.
Would it be wise for the Democrats to come to the table? Obamacare is so widely unpopular. Do they want to be seen as the ones who want to keep Obamacare?
It's not widely unpopular. It's widely unpopular with Republicans in specific, but even less so of recent vintage, where you see the numbers going up in terms of popularity, and the turnout just this past year in terms of people signing up, even during the election, was breaking records. So there's still a demand. There's a market for it. The question is about the political promise, Eric, and I think the political promise is loud and clear on the Republican side. Repeal Obamacare. But I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. Dana points out that the Democrats the Republicans will need 60 votes. They'll need Democratic cooperation in the Senate if there any new law. In addition to which, Donald Trump has already said on 60 Minutes, there are elements that he wants to keep. So, it's going to be a fight.
You know what? It's imagine Christmas Day, and you give some little brat a present.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's like a bicycle, and she didn't want a bicycle. She wanted a pony. Try to take that bicycle away from her. Even though she didn't want the bike, she wants the bike. So you give a social program or a government program to America, even though they claim that they hate it. You don't want to be the anti-Santa Claus that then comes along and says, I'm taking it back, unless you got something better to offer. And if he comes out with a plan, and he's got to name it, the No-Obamacare. going from Obamacare to no Obamacare, and it has private savings accounts. It's got you can keep your doctor. There's competition across state lines. All of a sudden, it's like this is better than the bicycle. It's a flying bicycle
or a pony
or a pony.
Pony care.
The way your mind works.
How about
It's
this
not
one?
left. Now it's left there.
No Obama.
And now to another huge item on the president-elect's agenda: immigration.
We will build a great wall along the southern border, and Mexico will pay for the wall. On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
Big and beautiful.
It
Your
sounds
thoughts?
attractive.
It does sound good.
So for years, for going back 2 administrations, the idea was to try to do immigration reform in a comprehensive way so that you get everything done, because you wouldn't get enough people to come to the table for, let's say, H-1B visas that you would for border security and vice versa, so they wanted to do it all together. I think that one of the ways that Donald Trump would be able to advance his agenda on immigration is to dispel with that thinking and to do it piecemeal and to do border security first. I do think that that would actually pass, and then try to do some of the other stuff in terms of visas.
Greg, your analogy on the Obamacare applies to Republicans on the wall.
Imagine Christmas morning, and the night for weeks you've been promising little Billy a giant wall, and he can't sleep at all. And he wakes up in the morning and he opens it up, and it's a fence. But I wanted a wall. And he goes, it's just like a wall, but it's a fence. He goes, no, it's not. I can tear it apart.
And
so
through it.
He's got to come up with something. This is his USP, his unique selling point. Is that what it is, USP? When you get Donald, you get the wall. That's what you expect. So I don't know how he's going to get around not giving the wall.
KJ, still contend he will build a physical barrier, a wall.
I think he has to.
Yeah.
With the vast majority of the whole southern border being, separated by a wall with Mexico.
The wall excites me. I like when he talks about the wall. It's big. It's beautiful. It sounds like, a sight to behold. We'll make it like the 8th wonder of the world. But here I think it's going to be
Even better wall, remember?
The even better wall, correct. Now, here's the thing. I think it's going to be more complex than that, because it'll have quick response teams. It'll have surveillance. It'll have drones. It'll have all of these different things encompassed so that you have kind of all of the elements to be able to put it together, not just a physical barrier. And he also said there would be a door.
Big, beautiful door.
I hope it's like the door at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. They had this gigantic big door like a castle, and you had to knock on it to say, hello, let me in.
Can we get in? Hello, can we get in?
Yeah, you can get in. You can just fly right over. Everybody else does.
Wow.
But I must say, this is the point where everything starts to collapse, where Gregory's analogy is the kid goes wild, starts screaming, and you say, hey, calm down, it's okay, we got fencing. And we already have drones, and we already have increased border security because we got more border agents. And then the Republicans on Capitol Hill say, yeah, we're going to give you even more border agents. You say, but there's no wall. And they say, well, we can't do a wall. It doesn't make sense. And it never did make sense. And then Newt Gingrich says, well, it was just something to get him elected. And Paul Ryan says, this is just a waste of money. And guess what? Mitch McConnell in the Senate says, it's not on our agenda right now. We have other important things.
You imagine how many people you could employ by building a 2,800, 500.
Imagine all the...
That's like Paul Krugman's argument.
That's where there's an alien invasion. That was
That's all Krugman.
That was Krugman.
Right.
But there's a point here, though, that it is an infrastructure. Of course, it's infrastructure. You could actually take the undocumented workers and hire them.
This is how you get Mexico to pay
Mexico
for
pay
it.
for that.
This is how you do it. You
This is
use
ridiculous.
Mexican laborers to
Oh, this
build the
is the
wall.
5.
All right.
Of course, I know.
Or even getting into office. President-elect Donald Trump saved around 1,000 jobs or so by negotiating with Carrier to keep its plant in Indiana instead of moving their jobs to Mexico. And he's not stopping there. Mr. Trump says jobs will be the focus of his administration.
We have to stop our jobs from being stolen from us. We have to stop our companies from leaving the United States and with it firing all of their people. Companies will come, they will build, they will expand, new companies will start, and I look very, very much forward to doing it.
Surely one, that's pretty cool, right? Keeping jobs in America.
I'm all for it. So how's he going to do it? So his plan, it seems to me, at best, because I want to give Donald Trump a chance, is you do tax cuts and you do some kind of regulatory relief. And I think that has a chance on Capitol Hill. The problem is tax cuts, regulatory relief, guess what? There's a lot of it in place, especially the tax cuts. Then it's a minor expense for big business. That's not comparable to payroll. And if you compare the payroll in Mexico versus the payroll in Texas,
Can you
Indiana,
explain that? If I'm saving $1 on taxes, versus having to spend an extra $1 on payroll, it's the same dollar.
No, but I said payroll. Payroll is, let's say you pay a Mexican worker $3.69 an hour, and you pay $30 an hour to the guy up in Missouri. As you're a businessman, that says pretty clearly, I'm moving to Mexico, and Donald Trump can't stop that. What he can do, Eric, he can try to impose some tariffs, but that's going to start all kinds of trade wars and problems.
Dana, your thoughts on the program that Donald Trump is putting together, as Juan correctly points out, reducing tax burdens on corporations and even the punitive damages of a fear tax.
Well, in the Obama administration, there was actually nearly an agreement on the rate for corporate taxes. Donald Trump would go lower, and I think that's fine. But actually, the Republicans and Democrats were hovering around between 25 and 27.5%. So you could probably work a deal somewhere there. And I'm all for that. And regulations, obviously that's hampering business, so that's another thing you could do. But the other piece I think that is sort of missing from this idea is the education and job training. One of the things that IBM said was that, we'll keep some jobs here, we'll invest more, but we want federal money for job training and retraining for workers whose jobs have been automated. That'd be my third point, which is CEOs, and he wants to be the CEO of America, CEOs think 10 to 15, 20 years ahead for their businesses. So thinking that far ahead for America and also the world is that these jobs, just from an efficiency standpoint, will go away as technology improves. So how do you retrain those workers in order to keep jobs in America, not from going overseas, but from going to robots?
Let me just jump in real quick to interrupt and say, on coal, which is this big problem, I'm going to bring back coal jobs. Just no way. I mean, talk about the Grinch.
You're a little hung up on that.
I don't see how. I mean, because
why are you throwing so much shade?
We have more productivity, more efficiency.
Do you understand how much of our electricity usage is fired by coal? About 40%.
Yeah. Do you understand that people are replacing that with
let me use an
natural
analogy.
gas?
Bill, it's Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Billy says he wants a bicycle, but he demands that the bicycle be made in America. So Billy's parents go and get the bicycle, and it's made in America by robots. The fact is, increasing productivity is happening with fewer workers. Yeah. Even Carrier took the incentives from the deal and invested it in automation, not in jobs. Right. So the biggest job thief is progress, and you can't tax progress because that's immoral.
Sure.
And impossible.
Yeah, but that's going to happen with or without lower corporate taxes, and you still.
There's other things to do too.
Manufacturing, yes, it's becoming more efficient, but that's where a lot of these jobs we're going to keep, according to Donald Trump, in America versus going to areas where Juan correctly points out labor is far cheaper.
Right. So that's what we have to do. We have to create incentive-based programs. There's a number of ways to do that. How about lowering taxes, tax cuts for corporations, reduction in regulatory costs, lower energy costs from increased production in general. We talked about infrastructure, jobs. The whole focus and mantra is going to be, yes, America first, hire in America, produce and manufacture in America, and make us, enticing for other countries to be able to purchase our goods instead of always importing. And we want to have friendly trade relations, but it's got to be both ways, a two-way street. Okay, if we're going to buy some stuff in China, they got to buy some stuff here too. And we should be holding on to the American companies. There's something wrong if American companies are feeling the squeeze and boxed in and have no other egress but to go out and take their companies and take those jobs out of this country.
We're going to leave it right there. Up next, how President-elect Trump is likely to reshape the Supreme Court, and later, our predictions for this coming year, our resolutions, and more. Stay tuned.
Oh, my God. Welcome back. back. We're taking a look tonight at some of President-elect Trump's campaign pledges as he prepares to be sworn in on January 20th. There's still a vacancy on the Supreme Court that needs to be filled following the passing of Justice Scalia, and there could be other vacancies to come during Mr. Trump's term in office. Here's how he's pledging to put his stamp on the High Court.
We are going to appoint justices of the United States Supreme Court who will uphold our laws and our Constitution. The replacement of our beloved Justice Scalia will be a person of similar views, principles, and judicial philosophies. Very important. This will be one of the most important issues decided by this election.
Sorry, Danny, you made a prediction of this, you just said.
I know we're going to talk about predictions a little bit later in the show, but one of the things that
Are you predicting
I
that?
said in I will predict that. Thank you. There's another one I can cross off.
I predicted you would say that.
So that you have a list too?
Yes.
I predicted you.
So there was a Supreme Court vacancy before the
predicted
election. That was my prediction. I did not know who it would be, and sadly it was Antonin Scalia. Yeah. So now you have a situation where the Democrats are going to be in a box. And I have to say that I think most valuable player award on the Supreme Court issue goes to Senator Mitch McConnell, who early on, under enormous pressure and terrible press coverage, was the first to say, we will not hold a vote for Merrick Garland, President Obama's Supreme Court choice. We will not do it. And he just got pilloried in the press, and he was right to just hold, because now that will go away and Donald Trump will have a chance, I think probably before inauguration, to announce who that replacement will be, and they'll probably start hearings because it will take a while for that to get done.
Okay, are you calling on yourself?
Yes, I think that, we've talked about how this country needs to be unified.
Yep.
What can President-elect Trump do to unify the country? Nominate President Obama to the Supreme Court, because he's a lawyer. He would probably look really good in a robe, and it would unify the country. If President Trump nominated Barack Obama to the Supreme Court, people would go, oh my God, that's a genius. And he would be seen as a wonderful person.
And help Obamacare.
So
They do that after that.
So if you have a little brat and you want Obama on the Supreme Court,
Yes.
but you get, say, Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court, what happens then?
Yeah.
You wish you got the bicycle?
Yes.
You realize the wisdom of that gift later on in your
Twin
life.
cruiser.
That could be. Look, Donald Trump put out a list of 11 candidates, and all of them are constitutional conservatives, and I think he's going to be. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised with whoever he picks. And again, I do think Ted Cruz would make a great Supreme Court justice.
I think the worry here is on the Republican side that you don't get someone like a Justice Souter who came on the court as a conservative, and then people say, oh, but gosh, she's kind of wishy-washy middling. They want another Justice Scalia. But remember, Democrats have a say in this. And that's why it's not the choice. It's not the person that Donald Trump nominates. It's the process. It's the confirmation hearings. First and foremost, Mitch McConnell, Dana's absolutely right. I picked Mitch McConnell as my winner on Capitol Hill last year because, in part, he was rewarded for obstructing Merrick Garland by saving the seat for a conservative. But guess what? Now that has energized the Democrats to say, why would we treat a Republican any differently? They're going to try to slow things down unless Mitch McConnell goes ahead and employs a nuclear option on a Supreme Court nomination and say, we don't need 60 votes. It's just going to be a majority.
It's a very different
and that will blow up.
You're going to do that for 4 years?
Who pushed the nuclear option through? Who was that again?
No.
Oh, that was Harry Reid.
Right.
That was Harry Reid who introduced this.
You are confusing
And where's
the
Harry
Supreme
Reid
Court
gonna be,
nomination with other
No, I'm
nominees.
not. I'm talking about who brought back the Supreme
Well, I'm just telling you, that's the rules. Right now, as it stands, it will take 60 votes, and Democrats are going to stop it.
Okay, little Billy's. Billy Goose. Another campaign pledge of Mr. Trump's. Make America safe again. One way to prevent new attacks here at home, keep terrorists out and stop taking in refugees from Muslim countries who can't possibly be properly vetted.
We should only admit into this country those who share our values and respect our people. The time is overdue to develop a new screening test for the threats we face today. I call it extreme vetting. I call it extreme vetting.
Has a ring to it. Extreme vetting, Bowling. Are y'all in?
Yeah, but my problem is how extreme can you be when you don't know where the vast majority of the refugees not where they're coming from, what their lives were about when they were there, when they were in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen. They're coming over with no history of clearly no work histories, no school histories, no criminal record histories, and these countries aren't very willing to turn them over to us. So, yeah, you can extreme vet and try and figure out what they're about now.
But that's the point. Unless you can verify
extreme vetting is better than what we have now, right. But we're still, we are still very vulnerable. Yes. Let anyone in that you don't know that a history of, you're vulnerable anyway.
Well, that's the thing. So, Dana, what do you do? Because you have an obligation for public safety and to try to prevent terror attacks. So there is a sense where you have to do your due diligence. You have to properly vet people. You have a responsibility and an obligation to do so.
All true. And I would agree with all of that. Depends on how they decide to do it, because he's answered differently depending on the interview. And I think that he recognizes that there are innocent people, like the children he knows are not criminals, but the parents, he doesn't know that. So anyway, so how they decide to do that. But I would flip the question and say that the United States should have a different posture going forward, that our goal would be to not create or to help prevent refugee crises from happening in the first place. And that is a very different posture for the United States in terms of the last 8 years, which would probably cause some heartburn amongst the country across Capitol Hill. But you solve the problem at its source, and then you don't have a refugee problem.
That's part. It's very interesting you bring that up, because that is very true. You have to preempt and get ahead of the game. But he's also said that you should create safe places and havens for them in their own country and make sure that they can be properly taken care of and really assist. And yes, put dollars towards that to be able to do it, so that there isn't this migration that is very problematic, fraught with problems in terms of verification in the process. So the two can go hand in hand.
Agree.
All right, well, fantastic. Okay, Greg.
Well, whenever you talk about any kind of vetting, people immediately bring up the idea of profiling. Oh, my God, you're being bigoted and whatnot. It's not really about clothing. It's about doctrine. It's about shared values. It's not about that appearance of how people look, but fearful of appearances, that you might appear to be a bigot. You might appear to be racist. And I think what we're going to see in the future, hopefully, is more manpower in dealing with this problem and less PC-controlled rules of engagement dealing with vetting. That, you know what, maybe you got to take a risk and appear to be, discriminating, when in fact what you're doing is trying to save people's lives.
See, I think that it's much more about keeping in concert with who we are as an American people and our values and the Statue of Liberty and welcoming people. And we have a great history of welcoming political refugees. Take the Cuban refugees fleeing Castro. If you just get to this country, we will take you in. I think we have to be very careful. Now, I appreciate the issue of safety. I think that you want to make sure. But where I disagree with Eric is we do so much already. It takes years for people to come through the current vetting process. And I think a lot of this is really a euphemistic language employed by Trump, who initially wanted to ban all Muslims, who now says, oh, no, we got to ban people who are coming from territories or states where we know there is terrorist activity.
Well, they should have heightened scrutiny coming from those areas.
I agree, but I think so much of it already exists.
Well,
to your point, they're homegrown terrorists, so what do you do about that? That's why what we're talking about is the origin, the doctrine, the kernel of idea that leads to this.
All right, let's go. Next.
Where are we going?
Nowhere with you. It was certainly a rough year for Democrats. Will they change their message in 2017? Get your head out of it. Stay tuned.
I'm Greg Jarrett at the Fox News headquarters in New York. The sentencing phase begins tomorrow for the man who killed 9 people at an historic black church in South Carolina in 2015, Dylann Roof. Representing himself, he said he will not call any witnesses or present any evidence. You break it, you own it. That from House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi on Republican plans to repeal and replace Obamacare. President Obama meeting this week with House and Senate Democrats to talk about his signature health care law. President-elect Trump said he might keep parts of it. Mariah Carey's team tried to explain her performance New Year's Eve. She stopped singing, blaming technical issues. Her reps claim producers sabotaged Mariah. The production company calls that absurd. Stay with Fox News Channel, America's most trusted source for news. I'm Greg Jarrett.
Wake me up before you go. Don't leave me hanging on like
2016 was the year that many Democrats, including me, we'd like to forget about it. We lost the White House, failed to retake control of the Senate after big losses on election night. So, will the party change its message moving forward? Democrats seem mixed on how to regain the trust of the white middle class in specific.
You have to talk to them. You have to engage with them. You have to go and let them know that you understand their anxieties.
Even our members from the coastal areas recognize that we are not a national party right now. We can't claim to be.
I don't think that people want a new direction. Our values unify us, and our values are about supporting America's working families. That is one that everyone is in agreement on. What we want is a better connection of our message to working families in our country.
Dana, how do you hear that?
I feel it's like if you were to clean out your closet and you find that dress that you looked great in 20 years ago, and you think, I haven't worn this in 15 years. Should I get rid of it? And they think, no, you know what? It could come back in style. It just feels like it's the same thing over and over again, and they don't get it. I really don't think they do. You know, right before Christmas, Chuck Schumer, the new leader of the Senate Democrats, fired the entire digital video team of the Senate. Many of them had worked there for years, as if they're the problem, as if the message is the problem. Instead, when I hear Joe Biden say that, I think it's fine to talk differently, but it's the results that matter. If the results were good, then they wouldn't have had a problem. But the results are bad in those areas, and that's why they said they want to change.
KG?
Yeah, I mean, it's really true. It's kind of a recipe for disaster, but they just keep going back to the same cookie recipe. It just doesn't matter. And what you saw in this election, that the President-elect Donald Trump and his team were really sophisticated in terms of their use of social media and other outlets to be able to drive the messaging and also the use of rallies. But when you look at the numbers compared to Democrats spending like $1.2 billion compared to Trump's $560 million, he was able to really monetize, those dollars and those resources for maximum outcome. And they should take a look at that, like an honest look at it and say, wow, the game has changed now. We could have and should have done better than we did with those dollars, and they didn't put them to work in the right way that they needed to.
Well, Eric, one of the interesting arguments coming out of Democrats in Washington is, you know what, Donald Trump is a phenomenon. He's a one-time deal, and if they change their message, they think, you know what, it's not going to do anything if you run into a Trump, but guess what, there's no other Trump coming.
So I'm blown away at the speed at which 4 years ago, remember, after the Romney loss, the GOP came out with their autopsy, and everyone said, wow, what's going on here? Is the Republican Party on its heels? Have we just now gone completely liberal in the country? In one election cycle, the 2016 cycle, it's gone from that to now the Democrats have to perform an autopsy. Have the last 10 years or maybe even longer, have they become an outdated entity? And I think they have. It's 10 years of flat wages. It's 10 years of minorities who they're supposed to represent and embrace underperforming the rest of the economy, both African Americans and Hispanics. I mean, so Trump's brilliant line was, hey, what have you got to lose? That resonated, and he's right. What did you have to lose? And guess what? I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised.
So, Greg, I think this comes down to maybe people whose names you might recognize. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker. Are they the future of the Democrats?
No, the future's Oprah.
Another celebrity.
No, you got to match star power with star power, and the left liberals have a lot of famous people that are of that star caliber, and Oprah is number one, at least in my book. Look, the overarching answer in terms of message, they have to jettison all the identity buckets and just see what happens. Try it for a month, or do it for Lent. 40 days of divisive-free rhetoric, because when you think about it, identity politics, like all ideologies, are addicting. They're addictive. And the reason why they're addictive is because they provide an answer for everything. Yeah. Identity politics, you can say anything, and all you have to say is, well, that's because you're white. Or that's because it's white privilege. You can have and that's why it's so easy to do. So just try it for 40 days, and it can't hurt. Maybe your life will get better. Maybe you'll have more friends. Maybe America will fall in love with you all over again.
Yeah, maybe you could repent for your sins. Anyway, next, our predictions for 2017. Did our predictions from last year come true? Dana Perino's site. Find out ahead. Give me the
Welcome back. It's time now for our annual predictions for the new year. If you're wondering how our Suzanne turned out from last year, take a look.
I think the parlor game of the year is going to be vice presidential selections. I would guess that Julian Castro, my bet, he is part of the ticket for the Democrats going in 2016.
You know it, in just a matter of hours, it is going to be the most amazing New Year's Eve show ever.
That'll make my prediction as well. I'll jump on that one.
I believe that there will be a vacancy on the Supreme Court before the election in 2016.
My prediction, and who will fill that vacancy?
Yes.
Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my prediction is, as we know, Elizabeth Hasselbeck has left Fox and Friends. Who will replace her? My prediction will be Donald Trump.
Oh, my gosh.
I was off.
No, I think you were right.
Well, he was on Fox and Friends.
That's what I think.
We'll start with you then. What is your prediction for this year?
I actually have a fairly serious one. I've noticed a rise in non-binary pronouns. These are pronouns that aren't he or she, but like Z, for people who reject identities. Now we're seeing otherkin. These are people who identify as animals and plants. So my prediction is an identity-specific adaptation where people are going to identify as other people. Like, what could stop me from saying I'm Oprah Winfrey? If I feel that I am Oprah Winfrey, why can't I say I'm Oprah Winfrey if that is my identity? If I could choose to be a plant or a kangaroo or a male or female or a transgendered flying buttress, why not?
Can you just stick with Purple Penguin?
Purple Penguin.
That's an interesting prediction.
That's what they
Identity-specific adaptation.
Kimberly, what do you have?
All right, well, I predicted it was going to be an amazing New Year's Eve. Wasn't it, Bowling?
It was
we did
amazing.
quite well. Wow, let's do it again. Oh, we just did. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm visualizing, instead of like candy canes and treats and salami, I'm visualizing jobs. I'm visualizing a robust 2017. Jobs for people, for the working men and women that were left behind, happy families around the dinner table with money in their wallets.
Okay, we only have 90 seconds, so Juan, you're next.
I think the confirmation fights early in the year are just going to be spectacular blow-ups, and my guess is that one of Donald Trump's cabinet picks is not going to make it through the confirmation process. I would look at Tillerson. I would look at Sessions. I would look at Carson's as the leading candidates to fall by the wayside.
Oh, there's always one that doesn't get through. Eric.
Okay, so with the wave of populism, Brexit, nationalism and populism, Brexit and Trump, I think it will continue to spread throughout 2017. I think globalism is on its way out, and nationalism will be on its way in, which means trade deals will be renegotiated. And also this one, very importantly, security deals may be renegotiated. With the trade, I think of NAFTA, and with the security, I'm thinking of maybe some NATO deals going on.
So I feel like my colleagues here played it really safe. They didn't want to go out on the limb, so I'm going to do that. I've got 3. And I am 3 for 3 in a year. Okay.
Yeah, really?
I believe, number 1, you're like this. Kate Middleton will announce she's pregnant with her 3rd child.
Oh,
sometime within
Didn't you
2017.
predict this before?
I did predict it in 2015.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that Angela Merkel will resign before the German election.
Wow.
I think that's a strong
Okay,
pick.
a strong prediction. And the 3rd one, I believe that Al Franken will start to position himself to be the challenger to Donald Trump's reelection in 2020.
Are you kidding?
Franken?
I believe it.
Now you've
There will be a
Frankensteined me with
This will be
fear.
a Saturday
You can't.
night live
That's a hell of a
election.
prediction.
I know, because you know what? I take this segment very seriously.
You do.
You've been very good at it.
All right,
Yeah,
next,
she's
our
like-
resolutions for the new year and a follow-up on how our resolutions for 2016 panned out. Did we stick to them? Stay tuned.
See? Time to reveal our resolution
little
for the
scary.
new year. All right, Diana, what's your resolution? Best dog?
Okay, so I'm going to go full robot on you
Yes.
in a way, but actually what I really want to do is to utilize all the new technology that's available that will make life easier for me. So like earlier last year, Kimberly taught me about the Venmo app.
Thank you.
That helped. Okay, I just learned how to download the little app so that when I go on the train to go to the airport, I don't have to get a ticket. It's just all right here. I want to know all of that. I don't want to be the old lady who doesn't know how to use anything. So if you have tips on how my life can be easier, with technology, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, Starbucks app, Venmo app,
Yep.
Arrow or Curb
I'm gonna
app.
app it out.
Get an app.
Okay.
It's an app for your apps. And they have an app for that, too, called the app. And then there's an app for that called the App Cubed. Eric.
Very good. Well done. So they're all day. Like, what's your resolution going to be? And let's do it this way. Hit me up on Twitter and Facebook. Tell me what my resolution should be.
Oh, boy.
You're right. A little, I'll take it. I'll be critical if you want. How could I be better? I'll take it and read some of them.
Do you want me to make a suggestion?
Not more tan. Not more tan, Bowling. Not more tan. You got that
I
perfect.
would like the audience to hear and tell me how I can be better.
That is going to be fun.
Right? Certainly is.
I'm going to open up some accounts.
That's it. Actually.
This time of year, I always start with the spiritual. So I think, just kind of being more Christian. I think I'd like to be able to love more people, to just open my heart to more people. But absolutely, you know that.
Okay.
Starts at home.
And physically, my problem.
It wasn't that physical.
I love sugar. I am a sugar guy. I mean, if you put a candy bar, if you put a cake, a cookie
Cookies
near
on
me,
election night.
so I got to stop eating.
You like sugar? Okay.
Oh, I got more
Give you
sugar.
some sugar.
Oh, I
Pour
appreciate
some
it.
sugar on one.
Sugar will kill you, brother.
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Bad. Both kinds of sugar. All right, KG.
Okay, fine. So I am going to be resolution buddies with Dana Perino, and we're going to keep each other strong in the new year. And being strong means make life easy.
Say no and mean it.
Yes.
Ugh.
Say no. Just say no.
I don't know where this is
and
going.
then what happens is you simplify your life. We're doing
But you
it.
don't fill up that time with more work.
Like, and what do? I'm the worst offender of this. I know this. I know. So this
gotta
is
make
what
a
I'm going to do.
resolution.
Namaste.
But Kimberly, I think there are a lot of men in America who don't want to hear you say no.
Oh, boy.
Maybe.
On that. So for my resolution, I was thinking about, how did I do last year? This is my resolution from last year. This year, I'm going to try to be less sexy. Last year, a lot of my sexiness got me into trouble. And I decided, you know what? I got to cut back on the sexiness.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm serious. My sexiness is out of control. So I'm just going to try to, I'm not going to bathe as much. I'm going to probably wear dirty, soiled clothing. I'm just going to try to cut back. It might not stop.
We're allergic to...
So what happened was, I failed. I became sexier than ever.
Wow.
And I left a trail of broken hearts and bodies wherever I went. So I'm going to try again to be even less sexier than last year.
Poor dog.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. I'm going to bathe less. But that tends to create more attraction.
The goodness, you cannot get any more sexy, so you'll probably...
I don't know. But by the way, I told you I got you the unicorn sweater for Christmas Secret Santa, and you're like, no, what are you talking about? There's the proof.
Yes.
Where is it?
I wore it. I have a very bad
where is
long-term
it?
and short-term memory.
No one knows where it is.
All right, they're telling me to go. One more thing next.
All right, time for one more thing. I'm going to kick it off. So 320 million Americans are kept safe every single day of the year, and we want to say thank you to all the 1.3 million members of the active members of our military serving around the world and here, everywhere, and also the 900,000 law enforcement officers who are sworn in and keeping us protected and safe every single day. Thank you to them. And those are a few from Cleveland. So a couple of...
Yeah, you took the pictures that you meant.
Yes, yeah.
Very nice. God bless them all.
One, you're up.
All right, so 2017, I'm looking forward to the Great Eclipse. It's called the Great American Total Solar Eclipse of 2017. For the first time in nearly 100 years, a solar eclipse will sweep across the entire continental USA. NASA says it will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see, so mark your calendars. August 21st, 2017. It's so exciting. It's got a whole website called Eclipse 2017. It has information on science experiments, fun travel, even like special traditions or things you can do to take advantage of the moment, ask somebody to marry you. So go online and check it out. You know I'm going to do it.
Looking up, KG.
You ask someone to marry you? KG.
Okay. So it's time for... Oh, Kimberly's food court. I get so, enraptured with the dynamics of it. Okay. So some chocolate news.
Yay.
Okay, everybody? Y'all in? America is still gobbling up a tremendous amount of chocolate. According to market research, Greg, 2016 sales of chocolate expected to reach $18.8 billion.
With a B, Kimberly?
With a B. Up 18% since 2011. I think if we make even more chocolate here, we can also
I'm gonna
help
make some
save
chocolate
this country.
later.
Oh, anyway, I'm going to eat this. Ew.
All right, while you eat, can I bring Greg in?
Dark chocolate is good for you, but I like the
Go for
milk
it, Greg.
one.
It's on a related note.
What?
Greg's nutrition tips. Boy, aren't we on top of things. You know, go to the movies. What do? You order popcorn? Don't order popcorn. It's extremely expensive and also fattening. This little critter here eats popcorn all the time. And it raises a very important question. Why does somebody have a monkey in their house?
I asked you that.
I know.
I mean,
don't know.
but also, is it good for their digestive system with the
It's not good for mine. Those kernels are mighty rough.
Popcorn is healthy for you.
Dana?
Okay, you guys thought I forgot.
Oh,
but
no.
I did not forget.
Not another
Time
calendar.
for the Jasper calendar of 2017. I got
can
one
use
for
that.
everybody.
Pass your left.
There you go.
Thank
Greg,
you.
sell it on eBay if you want it.
Beautiful.
Thanks to Cheryl and Prim who made me that she painted Jasper on a feather.
Well, that's
Sell
really
it
gorgeous.
on eBay.
Oh my God! Look at the ice skating.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I said.
What are these naked shots doing in here?
Oh my God! Felt Jasper.